Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Among the more common concerns that my clients come in with is that either they or their young adult child is having a hard time getting motivated to go and look for work. They've come and living at home, the proverbial sleeping on the sofa, the futon, and while in the most typical situations they may be motivated, for example, to exercise, no longer going to the gym amid COVID, but exercising, or they can't seem to motivate themselves to look for work. And as with most situations, there is no one easy solution. The standard thing about he's just lazy or whatever is simplistic and not true. Maybe most foundationally in this era of COVID, we need to adjust the timeline for growing up, especially with the COVID-killed economy. It really is hard for people to get a good job. I even read a statistic that people who are in IT are having a hard time getting a job, or at least are afraid of losing their job. So, just saying flog the kids, stop being lazy, you're an entitled millennial is way simplistic. It's true for, I would say, some percentage of people, but certainly not all, probably far from all. And so to avoid that, as an antidote to that one-size-fits-all approach, I want to talk about what I've found both with my clients and my clients' kids. What are the range of things that could be going on? First, we'll start with the physical. Sometimes it really is physical, a problem, either caused naturally or because of drug use. And so, as often is recommended, it's probably not a bad idea if you or your kid is pretty inert, to either ask yourself about whether the substance abuse, especially weed, which tends to lower motivation and activity level, is at play, or whether it would be a good idea to get that physical exam, with your doctor, nurse practitioner, whoever's doing it these days, who at least rule that out for starters. Then ask yourself whether indeed your lack of motivation to look for a job is not, it could either be low self-esteem, you really would do okay in the job market, even in the COVID shutdown, economic shutdown market, or it really is an accurate reflection. I mean, I have had many clients who are, for example, liberal arts graduates from second or third tier universities, or without even a degree, who appropriately say, you know what, I'm just not going to be able to get a job other than some crapola job. And so they say, I can't motivate myself to face rejection after rejection after rejection. So, what's required here is a clear-eyed look at how rational is your decision to not look for work. And indeed, sometimes people say, okay, and this is what they did in the last recession, they say, I'm going to go and try to get a degree or a certificate or whatever to try to, what in chess they call temporize, to wait it out, so that hopefully when the COVID smoke clears and the economy improves, may it happen sooner than later, that you'll have an additional credential, additional skills, and additional confidence, and additional connections that come from an additional either courses or a certificate or a degree. And again, it's beyond the scope of this talk to talk about it in great detail, but certainly one of the major advantages of taking a course or certificate or degree is the relationships with the professor and or fellow students, even if it is remote. Very often you can communicate with your fellow students, with your professor, ask questions, ask for advice, do group study, even online, on Zoom or Skype or whatever. That's that issue of, is it right to look for a job now, or is it wise to temporize and perhaps up your skills? But then again, of course, there are other things. Sometimes people, it's almost like what I'd call a postpartum depression. After they finished college, they have hopefully worked quite hard to finish what is often difficult, highly academic, not necessarily so practical, but a valued piece of paper, and valued perhaps learning in terms of citizenship, connoisseurship, writing, etc. And you're tired of all that, and you need a break. That's why historically So many people, especially when the economy was good, when they graduated, they did take some time off before going and looking for a job. They went traveling, and while it may or may not be possible to travel by air, this may be a good time to do that road trip. Unfortunately, with COVID, being in the same car or a van or whatever with the same people could entail risk. Those are personal decisions that you have to decide on. But it may also be, instead of taking courses or a certificate program, it may be a good time to do that travel that some people say has been transformative. Other people say they had hoped it would be transformative and rejuvenating, but they ended up coming back and feeling like they just spent more time without sufficient benefit. Again, there's no one size fits all. And then there are clinical problems. We talked about the potential of a physical problem. Well, before I leave that physical problem, sometimes it's a matter of getting into a really good routine of sleep hygiene, at the risk of sounding like your mother or father. It really is true that you can't function, especially for a young person, without at least 7, perhaps 8 hours of sleep routinely every night. Have a bedtime ritual, keep the room cool, and try to turn your mind off by either counting sheep or saying your meditation mantra, or, as I tend to do, I like gardening, and so I will lie and mentally go through each plant in my garden and give it a rating, and that puts me to sleep. In any case, enough of that. So, but there may be the second thing the next thing I wanted to talk about, possibly as causal for not looking for a job, even when you feel like rationally you have a shot at getting at least a launch pad job. It may not be a great job, but something for some people who haven't had a lot of work experience, even working at a Starbucks or doing DoorDash delivery or pizza delivery or whatever. While they're dead end in themselves, there's a lot you learn about people and customer service, reliability, responsibility. So for many people, getting a job of any sort is better than sitting at home, where you become more and more inert. And not to mention you bring in a few bucks. But if you have a mental health issue, that of course can also reduce motivation to work. So, I am not a huge fan of drugs, especially because antidepressant drugs tend to be, let's just say, mixed in their efficacy. They may work for some, and then for some they fade. But you may want to think about whether you should get at least some cognitive behavioral therapy to see if that can motivate you to look for work. Perhaps if you're diagnosed with depression or bipolar, etc., trying medication and seeing the extent to which that helps. I'm going a little out of order here, but it comes to mind and I don't want to forget about it. One of the advantages of living at home is you're now returning to home in a very different set of circumstances. You're not the kid anymore. So you have both freedoms and responsibilities that need to be negotiated and practiced, as coming back home is kind of the next step toward your independence. And so really negotiating a fair balance of freedoms and responsibilities between you and your parent or parents or step-parents or whoever you'd be living with is a really good exercise, and in maturity. A nice, it's in many ways a nice step. And of course you save a lot of money at the cost of rent, even though it's come down amid the COVID pandemic. You save a lot of money living at home, and sometimes, even if you're in your 20s, it can't hurt, it maybe could help a lot to have some more time under your parents' watchful eye. I know many people are much more mature in their late 20s than they are in their early 20s. What else can I say? It also may help to motivate you if again, it sounds cliched, but we are very affected by our peers. And if you have a close friend or friends who tend to be on the slackery side, is this time to grow up and say, I need to spend more time with an existing friend who's a responsible, diligent person, or if I don't have such a person, is this time to try to make new friends, whether it be, in this COVID environment safely through online meetups or discussion groups, or where it's safe, some in-person thing. I mean, I don't know what's a good example. There aren't in-person gatherings, so I'm not going to say do that, but think about reaching out maybe through your alumni network. One of the advantages of being a college graduate is you usually have, or attended college, you usually have access to the alumni, and maybe you'll find some kindred spirit alumni. And of course, there's the romantic possibilities, looking, whether it be getting set up through friends or through Match.com or similar dating websites. Finding good role models. People, we tend to be like the people we hang around. So that's a really good way to perhaps increase motivation. Some people who are inert and who don't have, it isn't so much the mental health problems or any physical problems or lack of sleep or drugs. They just, they've taken a break, and now it's time. They really should go back to work. And there's two really philosophies for this. One is to say that you need to do it incrementally and slowly. Start with a part-time, simple, easy job. Just you're back into routine of getting up and getting out and seeing the paycheck. And maybe, if your work is in an in-person place, like, there are certainly in many businesses, there are businesses that are open in person. I mean, I have a client who works at Home Depot. It's open, and others are certainly some places like Starbucks are somewhat open. You can, meet colleagues there, but it may be helpful to start with a simple something that you can succeed at to kind of get the momentum moving. On the other hand, some people are motivated only by some big cool goal. Maybe they have some entrepreneurial thing that they're excited about, that they want to try out. Even if you fail, you'll learn a tremendous amount trying the entrepreneurial thing, whether it be an online business or something you sell from your home or whatever. Or if you are more, to use the term, socially conscious, which only seems to have one direction, you have to be a liberal. I think people can be socially conscious across the ideological spectrum. Do something that's consistent with what you deeply believe. Volunteer or try to get paid work for a political candidate you agree with. Join the Peace Corps. Work for a nonprofit, if not for pay for volunteer. Having some kind of an altruistic goal that you think is going to make the world better. And believe me, I think that sometimes running an ethical business can be as valuable as a nonprofit business. So sometimes what can motivate you to move forward is pursuing what you believe is an altruistic goal. In any case, so let me move just into summary mode. We are in a new era, not just because of COVID, because of, I think structurally the economy is such that we have so many more college graduates now, that even college graduates may have a hard time getting a job unless they're really stars or in a very high demand field. So it is both socially acceptable and developmentally acceptable for an individual to spend more time living back with home, both for economic reasons and for your development reasons. And it's an opportunity to negotiate with parents a new relationship, that you're not a kid anymore, your freedoms and responsibilities. It might be an excellent step toward independence, as well as saving a lot of money. Do look at whatever, if you're not motivated to look for a job, look at the possible causes, physical and mental, and see whether you'd be wise to find different peers to hang out with, whether that would help, and then decide if you want to try to move forward with some small, simple baby steps, like a part-time, simple job that you could do easily to gain confidence and get you back in the swing of moving, or something big, a big, exciting goal, or one that that is aimed toward the values, liberal or conservative, that you hold, that are important to you, or any other values that are important. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and I especially like it if you hit your social media button, the share button below, and share it on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.